Morning, and welcome to Resources for Resiliency, COVID-19 webinar brought to you by your friends at the City of Orlando's Downtown Development Board and Community Redevelopment Agency, or the DDB-CRA. For those of you I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Thomas Chapman Jr., and I have the distinct honor of serving as the Executive Director of the DDB-CRA, and we're absolutely very pleased that you've chosen to join us this morning. We're confident that you will find this webinar both informative, educational, and hopefully helpful as we understand that you continue as business owners and operators to navigate through the murky waters of a global pandemic. We're empathetic to that. We hope you know that. We hope that you know that we are sensitive to your plight. And again, this morning, we intend to share with you some of the programs and initiatives and policies that we think will aid you as you continue to work through these murky waters. We have several special guests with us today that are going to present, and I'll talk about those in just a minute. But a few housekeeping matters before. We will entertain questions, but those questions ought to be entered into your chat box. And after each of the presenters has completed their presentations, we will then go through each and every one of the questions, time permitted. So again, questions you're to enter or comments you're to enter into your chat box. And we will capture all of those and address those after all of the presenters have completed their presentations. As I said, we have special guests with us this morning. Those include David Barilla, who is the Assistant Director of the DDB-CRA, Dominique Greco, who's a Nighttime Economy Manager for the DDB-CRA. We have Danielle Premature, who is Vice President of Talent and Community Development at our friends over at the Orlando Economic Partnership, or OEP. And not presenting, but here in case we need the vast knowledge that she brings, we have Sherry Garch, who is Director of Business Development for the City of Orlando and our key liaison with Orange County on all of the various programs that are addressing COVID-19 related issues. So we welcome everyone. I'd also like to give a special shout out. Sherry and I, and in fact, all of us here work for Brooke Bonnet, who is the Director of Economic Development for the city. And I understand Brooke is in the audience, so she's probably doing a performance evaluation on all of us. So I'd appreciate it if you go easy on us and make us look good in front of our boss today. So at this point, we're going to get started. And as I said, I do want you to understand that, and I hope you will see from what we share with you today, if you haven't already gathered it, that the City of Orlando and its Economic Development Department and DDB-CRA are very empathetic to the plight of businesses during these very perilous times. And we're doing anything and everything that we can that is appropriate to assist you. And we hope that you will have that same opinion once you hear the programs presented today. In fact, even our clean team, and we've all grown accustomed to the clean team. It's sort of out of sight, out of mind, but they're around all the time, 24 hours a day. And they're doing things that are above and beyond the normal pressure washing and graffiti removal and emptying hundreds of waste receptacles a day. During this time, we're actually sanitizing. The clean team is sanitizing on a daily basis, spraying disinfectant all throughout thousands and thousands of linear feet, I should say, of the downtown right away, particularly down Orange Avenue and the main thoroughfares. They're disinfecting all the light poles, all the trash cans, sidewalks, doggy stations, bus stops, parking meters. On a daily basis. The clean team is disinfecting and sanitizing anything and everything that humans can touch within our downtown area. So though they're not presenting here today, I wanted to make sure you knew that that clean team now takes on a special importance during this time of a global pandemic, and they're taking that responsibility very, very seriously, and under the direction of Walter Hawkins, who oversees it, along with Rondell Silcott, who manages the clean team. They're doing a great job and making downtown is very as clean and as safe as it can possibly be. So moving on, our first presenter today is our Nighttime Economy Manager, Dominique Greco. Dominique, it's great to have you. And at this point, you're up.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Thomas. Thanks for joining us this morning and to hear about some additional resources that you might have read about through our digital e-blasts that have been coming out or from the city or the DDB website. As you might have seen, we've recently, in recent months, added a outreach component to our relationship with Block by Block, which is the company that runs our ambassador program downtown. So in addition to continuing to see that consistent presence that you're used to in the lime green shirts from our ambassadors downtown, we have actually brought on another manager to focus solely on the social services side of this program. We found that our ambassadors were having much time interacting with persons experiencing homelessness on our city streets, and we wanted to be sure to put the right people in place that could be the conduit between that interaction and those multiple interactions that it sometimes takes to work with somebody who is in a vulnerable position and get them the services they need. So in addition to seeing our ambassadors, our safety ambassadors, you'll notice another new shirt down on the streets of downtown Orlando, and that coverage will be as well as 7 days a week, morning, noon, and night, doing that sensitive work. So we really applaud our new staff member, Amanda Fennell. If you haven't met her already, you likely will in the coming months, and be sure to say hi when you see them walking by. Been getting a lot of great feedback about our ambassadors since COVID, and it's been just really great to have a team that is so sensitive and available 7 days a week to do some of the unique jobs that COVID has called for. So again, thank you to Amanda and Mark for taking that program to the next step. Can slide, please. You can go back. So also Thomas touched on touchpoint cleaning from Clean Team. The ambassadors are contributing to that work as well. So no one that you see on the streets is without the resources and the tools they need to be helping to further disinfect our downtown. So it's cleaner than ever. Slide. Also seen a program recently called Curbside Pickup and Drop Off. It's been very successful. We have been able to switch, I want to say, over 20 or 25 spots in downtown Orlando to 15-minute parking spots. And those are typically outside of businesses that are eating and drinking establishments or retail. And some of those were made at the request of the business, and you're welcome to contact us and request a spot for you. However, I think we have the map up on the next slide. You'll see that we have done a pretty good job of getting coverage in there. So it was the goal of Parking and Transportation as well as DDB to look at the whole downtown map as, you know, one location and make sure that we dispersed those parking, those 15-minute pickup drop-off spots. So if you don't have one near your business, let us know, and we will take a look at this map and make sure that you're within reach. And then your Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, you know, any to go, your own staff can take advantage of those for picking up and dropping off. And then last but not least from me, parklets. So the parklet program right now is a temporary parklet program that the city of Orlando began on September 8th of this year. And the parklets are another attempt to create more outdoor space for our eating and drinking and retail establishments. During the pandemic, as we know, outside space is really key. We want to be able to create more square footage for our businesses so that they can physically distance their guests and have a safe experience while still patronizing the business. So since the pilot has begun, we've installed 5 parklets along Washington Street in the Thornton Park Main Street District on a temporary basis, and we're excited to be moving forward with kind of the temporary parklet 2.0, if you will, with some custom planters and barriers. They're going to have a really beautiful aesthetic feel. Right now we're working with a temporary setup with some equipment that we had on hand so we can make that happen quickly, and we'll be excited to get that switched out. So if you're interested in a parklet and have an on-street parking space in front of your business or even to the side of your business that fronts on your property, please reach out to cityplanning@orlando.gov and put an inquiry in, and we'll be out there to take a look at it and see what we can do if we can get you some outdoor seating. And I'm going to turn it over to David Barilla, our Assistant Director, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Dominique. So good morning, everyone. My name is David Barilla. Appreciate everyone being on. I have 4 different programs to overview with everyone, and then we'll be ready to answer your questions. So the first of which is our MOBA rent abatement program. This was an amendment to our Minority Women's Entrepreneur Business Assistance Program, specifically in response to COVID. So for those of you who may not be aware, MOBA, as we call it, is available to our Paramore area, or our west of I-4 area. If you think about it from a boundary standpoint, that is Gore on the south end, East Colonial on the north end, Westmoreland on the west end, and I-4 on the east end. So businesses within that area are able to apply for MOBA, which allows up to $40,000 in business assistance for new businesses in the area or potentially expanding businesses in the area. Specifically for COVID, there was an amendment to that program to allow for up to $6,000 of rent abatement from July 7th of 2020 up to February 1st of 2021. So the applications closed at that period of time, but ultimately those businesses within that area can make application for that assistance even if they have received MOBA before. And again, that is specifically in response to COVID. What it boils down to is about $1,000 per month for a 6-month period. Moving on to the next program is the program we have to expand operational space and marketing. So this program allows our businesses within downtown and throughout the city, to be honest with you, to extend their operational area. So in order to increase outdoor dining and also to allow businesses to make sure they have the appropriate safe distances, you can extend retail sales or restaurant seating out into private parking lots or public right-of-ways. And one of the big components of this is that you would not need to get a city permit and you do not need to pay any fees. We wanted to make sure it was easy and as seamless as possible. You would also be able to set up a tent. So think of like a 12 by 12 tent, similar to a farmer's market style tent that you can place outside to provide covering from rain and the elements and the sun. And you also have the ability to use extra banners and signage to allow people to be aware that you're open and operating and ready for customers. So in addition to that, specifically in downtown, we also have a program to help people access parking free of charge. So that kind of plays into all of our programs because we want to ensure that those individuals who do come back downtown to patronize our businesses are able to do it, again, in a very seamless and appropriate fashion. So Park DTO is the name of that program. And what that allows for is 2 things. There's free parking that is available for patrons in metered spots. So that is ran through our Park mobile app, which anybody can download on a smart device. And all they need to do is enter the coupon code PARKDTO, and that will allow them 2 hours of free parking. 2 hours is the maximum allowable time at meter, so that's kind of what sets that. But they can use that up to 4 times. Separate from that, if you have someone coming down or who has used all their 4 allotments of the Park DTO code on Park Mobile, or they're spending more than 2 hours of time, you can sign up with us for a 3-hour parking validation program where the DDB as well as our parking department is covering the cost for parking in city garages. You see the list of city garages that that program works for. It is the Central Garage, the 55 West Garage, and the Library Garage. So how that would work is once you sign up with us and we confirm that your business is eligible, and what eligible really means is that you have a BTR and that you're a retail or consumer business. So if you're typically like a ground floor business and you have a general customer that's not coming by appointment, similar to a CPA or something of that nature, you probably qualify. You would sign up, we would verify that all the information checks out. You would just visit our parking department office and they would provide those validations to you. And you would be able to provide those to your patrons when they come to patronize your business, and they will not be charged for 3 hours of parking when they leave those garages. And that is available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, all the way through February 1st at this point. I think we just covered this one as well. That form is on our website, downtownorlando.com. And the final program that I will talk you through briefly is our Small Business Rental Assistance Program. This is our newest program that was approved just a little bit over a week ago. And what this program will allow for is up to $30,000 of rental assistance for, and you heard me use this term previously, retail and consumer service businesses within the downtown CRA area. We have OEP, Orlando Economic Partnership. You heard Danielle's name mentioned before, who will actually be assisting us in the intake of these applications. They will actually be handling the approval process for it. But what I will do is I'll talk you through from a conceptual standpoint what that will look like and some of the various components or eligibility requirements so that you can make sure that you're ready as soon as that application process goes live. They are working very hard to get it live. I'll let Danielle announce the date here at the end. But ultimately, as you heard me mention earlier, this program is eligible for retail and consumer businesses. So as long as you are one of those and you've been in business for at least 1 year prior to the first executive order, which was, I believe, March 17th, you would effectively check those two boxes. Similar to our other programs, you do have to have an Orlando business tax receipt that's active and in good standing. But then a little bit more direct towards this program, which is targeted towards rental assistance. You would need to make sure that you have something from your landlord that just says that you're in good standing with them and your rental payments, at least up to 45 days prior to when you make application. You must be a for-profit business, so non-for-profits would not qualify. You have to have all your appropriate operating permits, which normally isn't a big challenge for individuals. You have to be a small business. So how we are defining small business is a business that has anywhere from 1 to 50 full-time employees. So I think the key word there is full-time. So I know I see a number of recognizable names and people I know who have a significant number of employees. However, if those are part-time employees, if you have 100 part-time employees, you would still be considered eligible. But if you have 51 full-time employees, you would not. So I'm not sure we'll have a tremendous amount of people that wouldn't qualify, but that is how that is defined. You have to have applied for some other form of assistance in the past. So we want to just ensure that everyone is taking advantage of the variety of different outlets that are available right now. So that could have been anything from the Orange County CARES program to EIDL to PPP or any type of state or federal program. In the past, you do not have to have received funds, just have make your application and attempted to, so to speak. And also, if you are an owner user of a building, so if you don't rent, but you own the building that you operate your qualifying business in, your retail or consumer service business in, you would also be eligible. The funding is calculated on a 1-for-1 match based on some assistance from your landlord. So as you heard me reference earlier, up to $30,000 is available. That breaks down to $5,000 per month. But that will be calculated based on some participation from your landlord. So to give you an example, if your lease rate is $10,000 a month and your landlord agrees to abate you $5,000 per month for 6 months, we would match that $5,000. So you effectively, your rent due to your landlord would be $5,000 because he took it down from 10, or he or she took it down from 10 to 5. We would provide the $5,000 match. So in context, you would not have to come out of pocket, so to speak, for that 6 months of rent. Now, that can be anywhere in between. $5,000 is the maximum. That can be an abatement that the landlord can provide. It can be a deferral. Really, it's any type of assistance that you can negotiate with them, and that would have to be documented and submit to OEP. So those are some of the high-level components of the program. I'll mention that OEP plans on administering this very similar to the Orange County Cares program. So if you participated in that, the platform will be the same. It will be neighborly. And they also are working on setting up a webinar that will walk through the specifics of the application process, the variety of ways you can document the items that I just discussed to ensure that you are one of the companies that can get assistance. The program is funded up to $1.5 million, and it is on a first come, first served basis. So that is based on the time that a completed application is received, not the initial time that an application is made. So the quicker you can start those conversations with your landlord, I know many of you already have, to document those appropriate things, obviously the better. And I will turn it over to Danielle to announce when OEP feels they will be ready to accept applications.
Thanks, David and team. The OEP, the partnership, we're honored and excited to support the city in this effort. We recognize the great value small businesses bring, especially to our downtown corridor. So commend you guys, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to partner with you. As David mentioned, I'm sure you're all on the edge of your seats for the date. So the date is Wednesday, November 4th. Applications will open. As David said, if you applied for the CARES funding, you should be pretty familiar with the system and the setup. The city's done a great job making it a pretty seamless process in terms of what documents you'll need to upload in your application. We'll have a team of people internally there to support you and help answer any questions that you may have. Another really cool opportunity about this partnership is that in March of this past year, the Orlando Economic Partnership launched a program called Brace, and it was a complimentary offering to businesses so that they could kind of go to a one-stop shop and learn about funding opportunities, legislation impacting their business, resource needs, HR resource needs. And we've been honored to be supported by JP Morgan Chase to continue offering that program. So all businesses that apply for the Small Business Rental Assistance Program will actually also have the opportunity, complimentary of course, to participate in Brace throughout the next year, which will offer a ton of networking, virtual of course, networking opportunities, different information on legislation and other hopefully funding opportunities that will come in the future. So we're excited to be able to offer that to all businesses that apply for this program as well. I'm sure there are some in the detailed questions for David, but I will say that on the 28th of October, you'll be getting information soon on a webinar that will walk you through this program more specifically. Our team will pull up a screen and make sure that everybody feels comfortable with the application process. Which, as I said earlier, will open on Wednesday, November 4th. David, is there any other questions or comments you wanted me to make?
Not specifically, no. I think we can go to questions now. Thank you so much, Danielle. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank all of the presenters. Great job. I mean, you've heard a lot of things. There's a lot of information being tossed to you. We've got free parking programs in downtown. There are pickup and delivery options that we're offering for convenience for customers. Expanded outdoor seating through our Parklet program, which is just getting started. And as Dominique said, we're ramping up. Rental assistance, both in Paramore and throughout the CRA, for up to $30,000 per business. That's a major program. You just heard Danielle say that they will open the application process on November 4th. That's probably going to be the big scoop story from today's webinar. Dominique, so Danielle, so we appreciate you announcing that. We've got ongoing marketing assistance through marketing funds that have been reallocated from the Downtown Development Board. So all of these programs at this point are COVID related and exist at least through February 1st of 2021. And of course, prior to then, we'll reassess the situation. As we all know, again, this landscape of COVID-19 continues to change and to shift and evolve. And as it does, we will continue to be responsive to it in manners that we think are appropriate and that help you sustain during these very, very trying times for all of us. So we do have some questions. And as we said in the beginning, we'd like to ask you to put your questions into the chat box feature. And we're going to get to all of those if we can. First question today says, what assistance is available for self-employed individuals, particularly an example, hairstylists or barbers that rent their own chair within a shop and make their own income? So Sherry, David, Danielle, what do you think? You got anything for barbers and hairstylists and other self-employed individuals that simply rent one booth or one chair within an establishment?
So underneath the Orange County Cares Grant Program, individual stylists, if they had a lease type of situation with a business owner, did qualify for the $10,000 grant. So the grant process is currently closed. I have heard rumors that the county is thinking about reopening that portal. They need to get to 65 million and they're at 57 million today in terms of the expenditure. So we'll keep you up to date on whether or not that portal reopens. And if it does, I would highly recommend that you apply. Some of the things that you need to make sure you have are BTR from the city. You need to have your state license. You need to have your taxes from last year. And if you don't have taxes from last year, profit and loss statement from last year, and then taxes from the previous year. And so all of that information is located on Orange County's website as to what's required. But, you know, if you're an individual that leases a booth, you would have qualified.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Sherry. We appreciate that. The next question, sort of two questions in one. The first is, are there any resources just for space? And I think David, you may have something there, or any of you may, but also it says, are there any resources for funding a nonprofit? David, I heard you mention, of course, that certain programs include nonprofits and therefore exclude nonprofits. But are there any resources for funding nonprofits, and are any resources for just for funding space? Who wants to take that?
So I can chime in, Thomas. The specific program that I mentioned that for was our rental assistance program. Again, I mentioned that as our newest program where nonprofits just aren't eligible to that extent. However, depending on the structure of that nonprofit, meaning if they're a consumer services type nonprofit, and I'm not sure exactly how that would lay out, but the other programs that we have, such as Park PTO, or if it's something that would be able to take advantage of expanding operational space, I personally don't see a reason why they would not be able to take advantage of those programs. But as far as direct funding, our programs that do offer additional funds do have the requirement that they have to be for-profit businesses.
Okay. Thanks, David. I appreciate that. So moving to the next question. Is there any minimum purchase to give the parking stamp validation to customers that the program, so that the program will not be misused? David, again, I think that's from the free parking or Park DTO program that you were handling.
Sure. So we do not require a minimum purchase. We provide those validations to the business. The business is welcome to require one if they so choose to do so. However, the metrics, so to speak, or the performance of the program is being monitored. The validations that are received are numbered. So our parking department can see who our users are, so to speak, but also potentially, if there is misuse. We have not had any drastic instances or have any inclination that we should have a cause for concern. So ultimately, there is no minimum purchase.
So that's up to the individual business who will receive the validations, and I think we're fine with them formulating their own policy as to who qualifies amongst their clientele. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So next question. About the rental assistance program again, you said that the business had to be open for 1 year prior to the first executive order. The question is there any leeway in that? It goes on to say, what if it was a week to about a month difference? How will we treat that? Danielle, David, what do you think?
So I think I could take that one. The program does specifically state that as a requirement. And I believe, again, March 17th is the first date. I can only speculate that, if we get to the point where all our funds are not expended, that we may be able to take something to our board for approval to look at any changes that we would want to do, similar to the way Orange County Cares had several different rounds of approvals that made minor adjustments to the requirements. But the way the program is currently stated, it would have to be 1 year prior to the first executive order, as I mentioned, which I believe is March.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that question? If not, we'll move to the next question. And this one, Dominique, is relative to the parklets. It says, is there a timeline on when the parklets on Washington will be changed and finished?
We do not have an exact timeline, but I can tell you that we're working expeditiously to get it done in the coming weeks and not months. That's what I can say.
Okay, thank you very much. So coming soon, newly redesigned parklets on Washington, right?
Coming soon.
Stay tuned. All right, next question. Will you match past rent abatement? Will you match past rent abatement? Will that qualify for the rental assistance program? Some landlords gave relief early, but that grace has run out. And I think, David and Danielle, I think that's going to be something that we hear time and time again. I know that I've already had inquiries into our office asking about whether or not relief that was given early during COVID can now be brought as a qualifier for the rental assistance program. David, what do you think?
Sure. So past rental assistance, unfortunately, would not qualify. It would have to be going forward. What we're hoping, I think, is that the availability of this program will hopefully provide some leverage or ability for our businesses, tenants, so to speak, to have those conversations with their landlord again. And as I mentioned, pretty much any form of assistance that the landlord would be open to that boils down to a monetary amount on your base rent would qualify. So even if they were would be willing to defer some of that rent to a later time, we would consider that as appropriate in order to provide additional funds on our end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. David, I'd like to add to that, I mean, this is a new program, as we've indicated, recently approved by CRA and City Council and debuting November 4th. The concept there is to assist businesses to sustain themselves moving forward from where we are now. And so a lot of thought was put into that. And that's why the situation is as David just presented. That we want to help those businesses that have been able to survive to now. We know that some of them continue to struggle, and that we're hoping to give some assistance that helps sustain them for that 6-month period of time, as we all grapple and hope that we see some relief from COVID-19 in the not too distant future, and that's why we've taken that approach. The next question is a similar question. It's also about small business rental assistance program. It says, under the small business rental assistance program, you require that the landlord must participate. That is true. It says, my issue is that if the landlord was participating, we would not need the assistance. The questioner goes on. It says, my problem is the landlord does not want to participate. So that is why we need the assistance. So why are the businesses being penalized due to no landlord participation? David, I'll let you go first, and I'll chime in afterwards.
Sure. So the program does require landlord participation. So that is not only a requirement, it's also the basis for how the incentive would get calculated, as I mentioned previously. It is not our intent to structure it in any way as a penalty, so to speak, but as a way to leverage funds for the business. And as I mentioned before, to help give them the ability to have those conversations and negotiations with their landlord, with something on the other end, being outside money, being money from the CRA to help them. I think in an ideal world, it would be everybody's goal to sustain them. There may be situations where that is not, but ultimately the program does require it at this point.
Correct. And that is not a requirement of the MOBA rental assistance, David, is it?
It is not, no, it is only for the small business rental assistance program.
Okay, thank you. Wanted to make that clarification. So, next question is, the questioner says, I received MOBA funding 5+ years ago. Am I still able to qualify or apply for your new retail stimulus program? David, you're the hot commodity when the question is here.
So the retail, I'll answer that question twice because I think there may have been some confusion between the retail stimulus program and the small business rental assistance program. We did not talk about the retail stimulus program this morning. That is a different program that is available to new or expanding tenants or businesses that are coming into downtown or expanding within downtown. So under the retail stimulus program, again, which we did not talk about this morning, if you applied for MOBA 5 years ago and you were expanding your space by at least 25%, so for ease of calculation, if you're going from 1,000 square foot to 1,250 square feet, you would be able to qualify. Answering that question in the second component for the rental assistance, just because I've heard confusion from other individuals who have came to me, you would be eligible for the rental assistance if you have received MOBA in the past. Even if you received the $6,000 from the amendment to MOBA that I spoke about first, it was the first program that I talked about, you would be eligible for the rental assistance program as well. Just the amount that you received from the MOBA rental assistance would be deducted from your award.
Okay, thank you very much. Don't go anywhere, David, because the next question I think is also going to target you and your programs. And the question is, can you give an example of the rental assistance program applying to a situation where the rent is under $5,000 a month?
Sure. So if your rent was $2,000 a month, let's say, and the landlord agreed to abate or defer or something similar, half of that, let's say, so they gave you $1,000 per month, we would match that $1,000 per month for the term of that reduction up to a maximum term of 6 months. So it's just a 1-for-1 match based on the assistance that you do receive from your landlord on a monthly basis for 6 months.
And so, David, for clarity, I'm understanding that in the example you just gave and a previous example, if the rent is $2,000 a month in your most recent example, and the landlord either abates or discounts or even just defers half of that or $1,000 of that a month, we would then match that $1,000. And for the duration of that 6-month period of time, the tenant would essentially pay no rent out of their own pocket, correct?
That is correct. I would just reference that the program does operate as a reimbursable program. So the tenant would have to make payment to their landlord, and then they would just submit that to us to receive our portion of that, the funding, in this case, the $1,000. But from a net perspective, you are correct. They would not have to come out of pocket, but it is reimbursed.
Well, thank you. You've been prophetic because our very next question says, does the rental assistance go straight to the landlord or do businesses keep funds to spend on anything or just rent?
Sure. So the funds are calculated based on the amount of assistance, as I mentioned. They do go to the tenant. They do not go to the landlord. So again, you would have to, a business would have to submit to us that they have paid their appropriate rent for the month. They would submit an invoice to us for the appropriate amount of assistance, and that would be paid to the tenant to that extent. That would be the end of the payment from our perspective.
Hey, thank you, David. Thank you very much. So that concludes the questions that have come through our chat feature. I'd like to go back and ask any of the panelists or presenters, are there any other comments that you'd like to make or information that you'd like to convey to our audience before we wrap up?
Thomas, if I may, I just want to mention the County Cares Grant. if any of you all are waiting to hear back on the grant or believe you were denied inappropriately, feel free to reach out to me or put your case number in the chat and I will look into it. My team has been involved heavily in the grant review process, and we've been able to get a lot of the previously denied grants through that process. So we're happy to help you however possible.
Thanks, Sherry. Thanks for that important update. I'd like to say again to all of the panelists, to Sherry, Danielle, David, Dominique, thank you so much for the participation this morning and sharing this information. I'm sure our listeners and viewers are looking forward to taking advantage of these programs. I do want to mention that there, as always, there are people behind the scenes that do a lot of the work that make these things work so well. And today I'd like to mention that Kelly Allen is always watching over my shoulder and making sure that DDB CRA looks good and does things the right way. Kelly manages communications and marketing for the DDB CRA. So thank you, Kelly. We appreciate that. Thanks, Kay, or Fifth Avenue, as I call her. And Victoria Stevenson, who's our event specialist. You can't see her, but she's sitting right here next to me and making sure that I don't do anything wrong. And then I've got all the questions coming in and all the information as it's been flowing. So Kelly, Victoria, thanks for job well done. And again, thanks to everybody for joining us, particularly the audience. And again, for the final time, I'd say, I hope that you can see that we're certainly empathetic to the circumstances that we all find ourselves in since spring of this year. And I also hope that you will find that you can avail yourself to some of the programs and initiatives that have been shared with you this morning. You, of course, can go to our website, downtownorlando.com, and kind of marinate on more of the details on this more and more. And you can see contact information there. If you have questions for those of us on the staff at DDCRA, we're certainly here to assist in any and every way that we can. So again, thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar. Thanks all of our presenters and panelists for all the valuable information. And we wish everybody well as we continue on our trek to help you to sustain yourselves throughout COVID-19 and making downtown Orlando, as the mayor charged us to do many years ago, the highest quality urban environment in the nation. So we haven't forgotten that. That doesn't change. COVID has changed a lot of things, but that has not changed. That's still our goal, our vision, and with your help, we will get there. Thank you, and that concludes our COVID-19 webinar for this morning.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Right.
Thank you.